make a move and the bunny gets it.
I said, put the bunny back in the box. Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box?
It's showtime.
Why doesn't the hero reveal himself and tell us your true name? You do have a name. My name is Gladiator. How dare you show your back to me? Slave, you will remove your helmet and tell me your name. My name is Fun My Comic, and I represent all the campaigns you shadow banned and kicked off your website. Huh? Creators that just wanted to fund, that wanted to be left alone. And we will build a website that is going to bury you all. Oh crap.
Roar. Roar. Colonel Ironsides here. 200 years I stood in the gap, fighting those who would harm my country. It was my honor, my sacred duty, so help me God. 9 times they took my life. 9 times I stood back up and made them pay. The freedom fighter I could handle anything, but someone betrayed me. I was ambushed, made mortal, rendered powerless, and retired. They passed an amendment and made me a civilian before I left the hospital. For 50 years I watched my country change. Watched its work while erasing me from history. The day I quit my job, I powered up and discovered they lied about that too. I'll remind them of freedom. I'll remind them of duty. I'll remind them of their oaths and who they serve. I'll remind them while I'm shoving it down their throats.
There we go. All right. Anyway, so I had the opening crawl ready, and I forgot to upload it. evidently I've uploaded the wrong thing. Anyway, so you get an idea what this show's about here. StreamYards is just not gonna StreamYards is not gonna cooperate with me today, evidently. No big deal. Hold on. Got somebody over here saying hello. Who is this? Okay. You two. Okay. Yo-yo, I guess. I'll say yo-yo. That's my guess anyway. And Johnny, welcome to the show, my friends. Jonathan Ramsey. Okay. C2K. All right. So now I understand that the subject of today, hold on a second. All right. Good evening. I'll translate for you. Jesus is knocking at your door. Go away. Call your father. He's in secret. Be blessed. Frederic France. Okay. All right. Appreciate that. A little bit obscure, but I'm not sure what that had to do with the subject, but appreciate any comment. All right. Anyway, so today we are going to talk about this right here. This is Stephen King's own writing. Now, I didn't realize that there's a whole entire backlash movement against this book out there. I thought it was pretty universally accepted as being one of the better books for beginning writers, but evidently, a lot of people have taken shots at it. I watched a few videos this afternoon. Oddly enough, the people who are taking the most shots at it are people that are teaching writing. Curious that. Okay, this is Story Grid, and his problem with Stephen King is hold on a second. He has three big problems with Stephen King here. He's forgotten what it's like to be a beginner. He knows how to write consistently and write well, and his writing skills are intuitive. He says that's the reason why the advice in own writing is flawed. And granted, when I came to own writing, I was already writing pretty consistently. Some other stuff. But this book here is not only writing advice, but it also serves as a memoir up to about the year 2000 of Stephen King's life. And granted, he does have a little bit of a reputation on social media. I mean, right now he's posting on Blue Sky, and he's extreme enough that he fits in. If you can fit in on over at Blue Sky, then you're cracked. And he's also for a lot of people who have bought his books just simply because of their voting habits. That's a little hard to get over. I'm not gonna lie, but this book here is about a different Stephen King. This book was written when he was recovering, or at least most of it, the back side of it, was written when he was recovering from getting hit by a car while he was walking. Uh, he had a lot of damage, a lot of pain, and this was kind of his therapy, trying to get back, get back on the horse. And so, I think he came. He was also on a lot of drugs. Let's face it, Stevie on drugs writes a lot different than Stevie off of drugs. I'm just saying. um, but let me read this bit here. I go back and read this from time to time. If you're a struggling writer, you're kind of like trying to hold on long enough to get published or for people to find out your work. This will mean something to you. So let me read this to you. Carrie inched along towards publication. That's his first book. We spent the advance on a new car, a standard shift, which Tabby, his wife, hated and reviled in her most colorful mill worker's language. And I signed a teaching contract for the 73-74 academic year. I was writing a new novel, a peculiar combination of Peyton Place and Dracula, which I called Second Coming. That later became Salem's Lot. Yeah, you know that book. We had moved to a ground floor apartment back in Bangor, a real pit, but we were in town again. We had a car covered by an actual warranty, and we had a telephone. To tell you the truth, Carrie had fallen off my radar screen almost completely. The kids were a handful, both the ones at school and the ones at home. I had begun to worry about my mother. She was 61, still working at Pineland Training Center and funny as ever. But Dave said she didn't feel well a lot of the time. Her bedside table was covered with prescription painkillers, and he was afraid there might be something seriously wrong with her. She's always smoked like a chimney, Dave said. He was a great one to talk since he smoked like a chimney himself. So did I. And how my wife hated the expense and the constant ashy dirt of it. But I knew what he meant. And although I didn't live as close to her as Dave, I didn't see her as often. The last time I had seen her, I could tell she lost weight. What can we do? I asked. Behind the question was all we knew of her mother, who kept herself to herself, as she liked to say. The result of that philosophy was a grass gray space where other families have histories. Dave and I knew almost nothing about our father or his family, and had little enough about our own mother's past, which included an incredible, to me at least, 8 dead brothers and sisters, and her own felt ambition to become a concert pianist. She did play the organ on some of the NBC radio soaps and Sunday church choirs during the war, she claimed. But we can't do anything, Dave, until she asked. So on one Sunday, not long after Dave's first call, which told me that I was published, I got another one from Bill Thompson at Doubleday. I was alone in the apartment. Tabby had packed the kids off to her mother's for a visit. I was working on the new book, which I thought of as Vampires in Our Town. Are you sitting down? Bill asked. No, I said. Our phone hung in the kitchen wall, and I was standing in the doorway between the kitchen and the living room. Do I need to? You might, he said. The paperback rights to Carrie went to Signet Books for $400,000. This is in 1973. When I was a little kid, Daddy Guy had once said to my mother, "Why don't you shut that kid up, Ruth?" When Stephen opens his mouth, all his gut will out. It's true then, has been true all my life. But on that Mother's Day in May of 1973, I was completely speechless. I stood there in the doorway, casting the same shadow as always, but I couldn't talk. Bill asked if I was still there, kind of laughing. He knew I was. I hadn't heard him right. I couldn't have. The idea allowed me to find my voice again, at least. Did you say it went for $40,000? $400,000, he said, under the rules of the road. $200K of it's yours. Congratulations, Stevie. I was standing in the doorway. It was our bedroom crib where Joe slept. Our place on Sanford Street rented for $90 a month, and this man I'd only met once face to face, was telling me I'd just won the lottery. The strength ran out of my legs. I didn't fall exactly, but I kind of whooshed down to a sitting position there in the doorway. Are you sure? I asked Bill, and he said he was. I asked for that number again, very slowly, very clearly, so I couldn't be sure I hadn't misunderstood. He said the number was 4, followed by 5 zeros. After that, a decimal point and 2 more zeros, he added. We talked for another half an hour, but I don't remember a single word of what I said. Then the conversation was over. I tried to call Tabby at her mother's. Her younger sister Marcella said Tab had already left. I walked back and forth through the apartment in my stocking feet, exploding with good news without an ear to hear it. I was shaking all over. At last, I pulled on my shoes and walked downtown. The only store that was open on Banger's Main Street was Levertier's Drug. Suddenly, I felt I had to buy Tabby a Mother's Day present. Something wild and extravagant. I tried. But there's one life's true facts. There's nothing really wild or extravagant for sale at Levertier's. I did the best I could. I got a hairdryer. When I got back home, she was in the kitchen unpacking the baby bag, singing along to the radio. I gave her the hairdryer, and she looked at it like she'd never seen one before. What's this for? She asked. I took her by the shoulders. I told her about the paperback sale. She didn't appear to understand. I told her again. Tabby looked over my shoulder at her shitty little 4-1 apartment, just as I had, and began to cry. So, that's the moment he really became Stephen King, the most prolific and published author in probably modern America life. Now, people can debate whether he's a good author or not, or whether he's a crap hack author who got lucky. I guess it just depends. I think he has moments where he's one of the better writers on the planet. If you've never read Different Seasons, just about all 4 of those books in Different Seasons are just solid. And they both all been converted, or all have been adapted except for one. Shawshank Redemption, The Body, which became Stand By Me, and Apt Pupil. It was a movie starring Brad Renfro, probably his last role, I think, and a individual named escapes my mind. He played Gandalf. He also played Magneto. What is his name? Just out of my head. Anyway, you know who that is. But there's a 4th story in there that's never been adapted called The Breathing Method. It's been rumored to be adapted multiple times. It never has, which is the ultimate shame, because that is one hell of a story. Also, it introduces something called The Club, which appears at least one other story I know of. Maybe more. I don't know. I haven't read Stevie in many years. But this, I may have gotten out of the habit of reading Stephen King, but I've never got out of the habit of reading this. So, if people want to know, let me see here. Okay. Now, where did telepathic bunny come from? Let me read you. So let's assume that you're in your favorite place, or your favorite receiving place, just as I am in the place where I do my best transmitting. We'll have to perform our mentalist routine, not just over distance, but over time as well. Yet that represents no real problem if we can still read Dickens and Shakespeare, and with the half of a footnote or two, eruditus. I think we can manage the gap between 97 and 2000, or 2026, as it were. And here we go. Actual telepathy in action. You'll notice I have nothing up my sleeves, and my lips never move. Neither most likely do yours. Look, here's a table covered by a red tablecloth. Now, on it is the cage the size of a small fish aquarium. In the cage is a white rabbit with a pink nose, pink ribbed eyes, and in its front paws is a carrot stub upon which it is contentedly munching. On its back, clearly marked in black ink, clearly marked in blue ink, is a numeral 8. Now, do we see the same thing? We'd have to get together and compare notes to be absolutely sure, but I think we do. There will be necessary variations. Of course, some receivers will see a cloth which is turkey red, others will see one that's scarlet, while others may see still other shades. To colorblind receivers, the red tablecloth is a dark gray of cigar ashes. Some may see scalloped edges, some may see straight lines or straight ones, and decorative souls may add lace. And welcome my tablecloth, which is your tablecloth, and knock yourself out. Likewise, the matter of the cage leaves quite a lot of room for individual interpretation. For one thing, it is described in terms of rough comparison, which is useful only if you and I see the world and measure things in it with similar eyes. It's easy to become careless when making rough comparisons. But the alternative is a prissy attention to detail that takes all the fun out of writing. What am I going to say? On the table is a cage 3 feet, 6 feet in length, 2 feet in one length, and 14 inches high. That's not prose, that's an instruction manual. This paragraph also doesn't tell us what sort of material the cage is made of. Wire mesh, steel rods, glass. Does it really matter? We all understand the cage is see-through medium. Beyond that, we don't care. The most interesting thing here is the carrot munching rabbit in the cave, but the number on its back. Not a 6, not a 4, not a 19.5. It's an 8. This is what we're looking at. We all see it. I didn't tell you. You didn't ask me. I never opened my mouth, and you never opened yours. We're not even the same year together, let alone the same room, except we are together. We're close. We're having a meeting of the minds. I sent you a table with red cloth on it, cage, a rabbit, and a number 8 in blue ink. You got them all, especially that blue 8. I've engaged an act of telepathy. No mythy, mountain shit, and real telepathy. I'm going to belabor the point, but before we go any further, you have to understand that I'm not trying to be cute. There is a point to be made. You can approach the act of writing with nervousness, excitement, hopefulness, and even despair, the sense that you can never completely put on the page what's on your mind and heart. You can come to the act with your fists clenched and your eyes narrowed, ready to kick ass, take down names. You can come to it because you want a girl to marry you or because you want to change the world. Come to it anyway but lightly. Let me say it again. You must not come lightly to the blank page. I'm not asking you to come reverently or unquestioningly. I'm asking you to be politically correct or cast aside your sense of humor. Please, God, if you have one. This isn't a popularity contest. It's not moral Olympics. It's not church. It's writing, damn it. Not washing the car or putting on eyeliner. If you can take it seriously, we can do business. If you can't, we or won't. It's time for you to close the book and do something else. Wash the car, maybe. So he sent me an image of the bunny with a blue 8 on the side. I sent it to you. It's a form of telepathy. Telepathic bunny. See? So there's a method to my madness. Hey RJ, hell, what's up, dude? Now the problems that I saw this other lady. She posted, yeah, but her problems were what Stephen King said about plotting, and so that she likes to plot things out and leave it a little bit loose for later, which I guess is kind of the way I do things. Very similarly. Of course, I saw another video on her saying she's the worst. She gives the worst advice on writing on YouTube. So, I mean, evidently there's this whole entire group or community teaching people to write, and they are kind of snarking at each other. My favorite one is Brandon McNulty. Look him up. He has given me a ton of good advice. He's very practical. But anyway, So these people, Story Grid, I think they're called. They have their own methodology that they teach people. Um, but there's a few controversial statements in this book, in that Stephen's trying to kind of give some tough love to some people, and and he believes that if you great writers can't or like born with it, they can't be made. Um, he believes that a bad writer is always going to be a bad writer. A competent writer can become a good writer, but a good writer, that's pretty much the plateau. They can't become a great writer unless they have genetic gift. So he's that's pretty controversial statement there. Um, I believe he considers himself a good writer, but that bothers people because they want to believe that that greatness is within your grasp. I think it's modern culture ideal. Um, but I don't care what kind of shoes you have. You're not going to be able to play basketball like Michael Jordan, even if you're in your physical prime, because there's like one guy that's gifted like Michael Jordan was gifted, or Tiger Woods, or you know, fill in the blank your goat, Tom Brady, or somebody like that. Anyway, it's like other talents. Some are gifted, but all need to work. Yeah, yeah. So there are like Elmore Leonard. I will never be as good as Elmore Leonard, but I can read Elmore Leonard, absorb his incredible dialogue. If you've ever seen the movie or seen the television show Justified, that's Elmore Leonard written dialogue. He consulted on pretty much every script till the last season or so when he passed away. Um, Josh Whedon wrote great dialogue. He a great snappy patter, and the whole entire industry has kind of been ruined by people trying to imitate Josh Whedon. But you either have it or you don't have it. Kobe shot something like 300 free throws a day. Even the best have to work. Yeah, agreed. Um, Now, there's a few other statements that people consider controversial that are in that book that I agree with to varying degrees. Okay. Uh, he believes that you have to read and write. If you are going to be a writer, you have to be a voracious reader. And I think I've got that covered, you know. Um, but what that does, it helps you, if you read enough of other people's work, then you can kind of like figure out how to make the donuts. And eventually you can do variations on the recipe and like create your own kind, you know. And I think that's a good point to be made. Always read people who are better than you. That goes if you want to improve on anything, at anything. Uh, Basically, play somebody that's better than you. That's going to kick your butt. That way, you have to work to achieve their level, and it will improve you greatly. If you only hang out with people as good as you, or not as good as you, then you will stagnate. In other words, people don't like to lose. They don't like the ego um, demolishment that happens when you come up against somebody better than you. But the truth of the matter is there's everybody has a level, and there's not a lot of variation to between where you are and where you want to get to. but it's a lot of work. If you're not willing to do the work, then get used to where you're at. So I don't consider that controversial, but some people do. Um, I read Robert R. McCammon's Boy's Life, and it kicks my butt. I mean, it kicks my butt every time. But just the prose, the quality, the plotting, the description, the just the whole entire balancing act that he pulls off in that novel. I read it every once in a while just to kind of like figure out where I'm at, because that's my goal. I want to, boy's life. Good. Robert McCammon's Boy's Life is my goal. That's my, nadir. That's my, target that I'm trying to hit. And I probably never will get there, but that's what I aspire to be. In comics, Louise Samuelson. I'll never be as good as Wheezy, but she's who I aspire to be, to be as good at. So you got to have somebody, So I agree with that part that he puts in there. Other things that I learned from this book. Once again, adjectives are not your friends. Adding "lee" onto everything. He says grumpily. Funny thing about it is, in the same book where he just says get rid of all your adverbs. I don't know if you noticed, but he said use lightly there, reverently or unquestioningly, awkward. So he's not above the whole adjective problem. Now, J.K. Rowling is pretty famous for everything being adjective, adjective, adjective. Just read one page of Harry Potter. Now, what she's good at is plotting, and she's good at writing genuine characters. All right. When I write noir, it's Michael Connelly. When I write sci-fi, Robert Heinlein. And when I write comics, it's Mike Barron. Not bad. Not bad at all. I'm going to say something controversial here. Okay. I think Chuck Dixon is hit or miss. I've read some Chuck Dixon that was really, really good. And I've read stuff that basically it was somebody else's writing that he polished. And so when it comes to Chuck Dixon, he's not an automatic buy for me. Mike Barron, on the other hand, I'll buy Mike Barron all day long. However, Mike Barron does have his limitations. He does violence very well, but the Sherlock Holmes Leviathan book wasn't really good. Was it Mike Barron? Not the Mike Barron level, what he's capable of. I think he needed an editor on that one, but anyway. Well, what I'm saying is, find somebody that inspires you. Find somebody that is going to cause you to work harder to get the level. Otherwise, I read Stephen King because I can probably write better than Stephen King. In on some ways, I can probably write better than him. Um, and especially lately. Now, early on, like I read stuff like Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. He was cooking. He was cooking on that. Some of his short stories are just perfect. I think Stephen King is a novelette to short story writer. And if he goes beyond that, then he starts chasing his own tail. A good example of that would be the book It. So, okay. Mike writes like an 80s action movie. I think he would have been a great Hollywood writer for the era. Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Can you imagine Mike Barron writing a Rambo movie? I mean, come on. I think he did some writing for the Expendables Goes to Hell. I'm not sure. I think he wrote one of those. But that's probably the closest we're going to get. Yeah, Mike would definitely be awesome writing. That or a Die Hard. Anyway, but he also there's a couple more controversial things that need to be addressed. In that the pre-existing artifact. Now, this is one that's considered controversial. And it's because there's two different camps. One camp says you have to have everything plotted out. You have to know exactly where everything's going, before you even start. What Stephen King is espousing is basically the pre-existing artifact. Okay. When you are an archaeologist and you find something like dinosaur bones or something like that, you're doing your best to extract it from the dirt to the rock in which it came as intact as possible. But this is an object that you've discovered that already exists in its full extent. And all you're doing is uncovering it, dusting it, excavating it, pulling it out of the bedrock as intact as possible. Now, there's a few things that I like about that particular philosophy. First of all, not going into a story with predetermined outcome. If you're brave enough, can lead you into conclusions which you wouldn't have brought the book to on your own. Because our own biases tend to flood into our writing. In that, if you come into a character that you like especially well, you won't be able to kill that character off. Because, that's like your darling. So the idea of trying to excavate the artifact gives you a freedom, but also gives you a responsibility. Because as the story takes its shape, the moment you try to add to the bones, the moment you try to alter the artifact as it comes out of the dirt, is the time it ceases becoming what it was supposed to be, what it went into the ground as. Now, this all sounds metaphysical, but anybody that's ever created something, and this goes for art, this goes for music, this goes for all printed medium. Sometimes when you're writing, something else takes over, and you write something down that doesn't feel like it came from you. I remember the first time that happened to me. There was a piece of dialogue, and I went back and reread it, and it was the first time that I got chill bumps from something I wrote. Technically, I wrote, but it didn't feel like I wrote it. It channeled it from somewhere else. And that's the beauty of a pre-existing artifact. The pre-existing artifact also takes you out of it. And the pre-existing artifact basically has its own rules that you have to follow. And once you discover those rules as you go, i.e., you get an idea what the shape is, so you start looking for that shape, that particular shape. Like as a bone, you get one end of the femur, and you're like, okay, I know that there's a femur. This is a femur bone, and it goes that way. So as I excavate, I'm going to find more of the femur. Maybe even find another joint. But as you follow the laws of the pre-existing artifact, then what comes out on the page becomes the purest expression possible. And it has authenticity that appeals to people. That's one thing that we've lost out of our culture is authenticity. In that we don't always recognize it when we see it, but we feel it when we see it. That's why you can have like the most polished, perfect band possible with the best lights, the best, choreography, the best singing. Maybe it's pre-recorded, maybe not, but because it's manufactured and it was like written in a boardroom, this person didn't write these lyrics. Somebody else wrote these lyrics for this person. And so it doesn't feel genuine. Yet you get a singer-songwriter on a stool in a coffee house, and they can just have you in the palm of their hand. Why is one disposable? You'll forget about it as soon as you leave the theater and go home. And this one over here can absolutely change your soul. What is the difference? The difference is authenticity. And the way you find authenticity is getting yourself out of it. And the concept of the pre-existing artifact does that. It's you see this time after time where somebody will struggle writing a song, and then something organic happens. Okay, a good example: the Guess Who were playing this club in Canada. I think it might have been a dance hall or something like that. Well, Randy Bachman, the guitarist, broke a string. And so he had to sit here and put this, replace the string, and he's tuning it up. And his band is over here at the bar, and his lead singer is in the parking lot selling albums. Burton Cummings. Okay. So he plays a guitar lick trying to, check the string. You know the lick. You've heard the lick in your head when, if you know American Woman, you know the lick I'm talking about. Well, he played it once. And then everybody in the crowd went, what is that? And so he started playing it again. And the crowd sort of gathering around the stage, thinking something's happening. And so he starts playing it in a sequence, with a certain break between it. And he starts waving at his band, hey, come on over. And so his band at that time, they had been so well rehearsed that they were very tight. But as soon as they heard that riff, they got inspired, and so the drummer figured out where the drum should go. The bass guitars figured out, and so they start playing this riff over and over. And suddenly, Burton Cummings comes in from the parking lot, thinking the band had started without him, and he's like, "What song is this? I don't remember this song." And Randy's like, "Just make up some words. Just make up some words," because he's like, "We can't lose this song, and if you have lyrics to it, you can remember it later." And so Burton just started riffing off the top of his head. He was lamenting the fact that uh, American women were a lot more forward and a lot more uh, willing than Canadian women, and it was something that he just didn't want to mess with, you know. And so American woman, get away from me, you know. And as he went, he started thinking about the war, anti-war sentiments, and he started putting that in, and just coming off the top of his head. And when the end of the song, it was standing ovation. Everybody's like freaking out how great the song was, and we're like, "There's no way we're going to remember this. There's no way we're going to remember this." And some kid in the crowd had at that time, rare tape player, basically a tape recorder, a portable one. Of course, at that time it wasn't really portable; it's about the size of a suitcase. But he came up to him and he's like, "You guys want this tape?" And they looked at each other and like, "Yeah, we want that tape." And so they just basically threw money at the kid, whatever they had in their pocket, and they took it back, and that was American Woman. Something completely organic. It was a pre-existing artifact that they discovered that was just floating around somewhere, and they tuned into it, and suddenly, boom, the whole thing just came in the moment, fully formed, and it's still to this day their biggest hit. As soon as I said American Woman, you all heard that guitar riff in your head. And Randy Bachman was just testing this guitar out. They played that riff, and it was just like, boom, magic. Whoa, what did I just do? And this happens over and over and over and over again, and it just because, it sounds existential. It sounds kind of, woohoo, the kind of stuff. But when you're an artist or when you're creative, you will tap into it every once in a while. It's not all the time, but there's times where you tap into something and it feels like, holy crap, this is the gigantic dinosaur bone that I just tapped into. And how do I get this out? How do I land it? It's one of the most intimidating things on the planet. I was just part of a project. And during the course of that project, the idea that I tapped into got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I experienced a loss last year. And I was still on some level, still dealing with the grief. But I knew that the idea was awesome. And the idea just kept revealing itself to me. And it's the layers kept revealing themselves to me. But I got to where I couldn't hear the music anymore. And I was asked to do a rewrite, and I couldn't do it. I would sit there for days, just staring at the laptop. Everything I tried to write didn't feel right. I just couldn't get back into. I just couldn't tap into the dinosaur. I lost the bones, So eventually, I had to tap out of the project and give it back and say, I can't find it. And what I hear is that another writer has kind of like found the dinosaur bone and he's excavating it because I couldn't find it anymore for whatever reason. And that's when you're talking about the pre-existing artifact. If you lose it, you lose it. There's no way to fake that. And I think people do all the time. I think, have you ever watched something or read something or heard a song and it's like inauthenticity, and then every once in a while there's like a moment or something, there's a glimmer or something better, like the movie League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I can see an awesome movie in all that footage. I can see an awesome movie that an editor, a few edits here or there, might be able to salvage. Because there's like moments in that movie that are just great moments. But as a whole, because of the production budget and because of all the floods and stuff they were having, and Sean Connery being done, ready to go home, they weren't able to be as consistent as they would. I think they would like to have been. Plus, Alan Moore hates it. Of course, Alan Moore hates everything. But pre-existing artifact. Good example. Alan Moore, when he made Rorschach, he wanted a character that was similar to Charlton Comics, Steve Ditko, Mr. A, or the Answer. And so he couldn't. He wasn't given permission to use those characters, and so he wrote his own. And the more he wrote on that character, the better the character got. And now, out of all the Watchmen, you ask people who their favorite is, inevitably, just about everybody you're going to talk to will say Rorschach. As a matter of fact, Alan Moore doesn't even like Rorschach. He will tell interview after interview, he talks about how much he hates Rorschach. And yet, he discovered him. He pulled him out of the bedrock, and he's become an iconic character. The one man who would not compromise, even in the face of Armageddon. That's admirable. Yeah, the whole thing about where he doesn't shower, he eats beans out of the can, just a weirdo. But it makes him more endearing. Pre-existing artifact. There's other things in here about creating a tool chest. Things that you do well. Figuring out what you do well, and making that like your primary go-to. If you do dialogue better than you do plotting, then make your plot rudimentary and really go in on the dialogue. If you're a great plotter, but you're not good on character development, then make a incredible plot that people are going to enjoy unraveling, and then do as best as you can with the characters. Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky is a good example of this. His main character is just basically a living concept. He's not really a human. But because the plot was there, because everything else was so tight, you can overlook the fact that the guy's more of a caricature than he is a character. But, figure out what you do best. If you're good at descriptions, if you're good at illusions, if you're good at, coming up with great characters, then just lean into it. Just polish, bring it forward, bring that ability forward. That's what you're gifted with. And that's part of the being a good writer is figuring out what you're good at and really honing that gift. Um, there's people that are more than like triple threats. Robert R. McCammon is a triple threat. Characters, plot, dialogue, you know, description. He can do it all. That's not triple. That's like four things. Anyway. But anyway, so is this book flawed? Yes. And does it have issues with the author not entirely being friendly towards brand new writers? Yes. However, what it does get right, it gets extremely right. And I've applied the principles I learned in here. And my writing was improved overnight. So I can say the results are pretty significant for me. They were very significant for me. And so I can't speak for anybody else, but I just know that it helped me. I went from this good of a writer to about right here. And it was dramatic and it was, almost overnight. I started, because this is a mechanic's manual. This is not an engineer. This is a mechanic. And he's just telling you what works. Which screw to turn, which valve to open. He can just tell you what works, what doesn't work. And he's pretty close. Very close. And a lot of things he said about modern writing are almost prophetic. And considering that, he's a rabid lefty, about as far left as you can go. And he supports every cause that has a blue D by it. Yet, at the same time, when it comes to the craft itself, he is one of the most consistent writers out there. Dean Koontz is not as consistent as Stephen King. Because Dean Koontz is either a great book, horrible, 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 horrible book. Great book, So Dean Koontz is just very inconsistent. And he's way over descriptive. My gosh, that guy. He'll do paragraphs of description. But then again, he'll do a dragon seed. What's the other one I like? Hideaway. Soul Survivor is pretty good. But Intensity is Dean Koontz's best book. And his best character. Her name is China Phillips, I think. Not China Phillips. That's Wilson Phillips. Anyway, China Shepherd. The best protagonist he's ever written. And if you definitely read that book, Intensity by Stephen King. I did a television adaptation. John McGinley from Clerks, or not Clerks, but Scrubs was in it. But he just wasn't right for the part. But definitely get that book, Intensity. I say all that to say this. If you are a writer, or if you're thinking about wanting to write, and you just want some practical help to kind of like improve yourself, then this is the most readable, easiest to absorb reading or writing book on that I've ever run across. I've tried. I've got a whole shelf full of writing advice over there, and this is the one I go back to all the time. No matter what you think about Stephen King, and to be honest, I don't think much of him. In 2000, when he was recovering from that accident, maybe because of the drugs, maybe because of the pain, but he went somewhere, and that's what he brought back. And it's, in my opinion, the best beginning writer book I think you can get, and that's what it was intended to be. But anyway, thank you all for coming. This Thursday, I don't know if I'll have a Gen X Files. Hopefully, I'll have a topic occur to me that's pertinent. No, we will see you next time. There's some shorts coming. I will see you then. Bye, everybody.